right? That's why you have lobbyists to influence. All right? That's why you have these, what are now called super PACs, to buy airtime, right? Generally to not get the message out of the person that you're supporting, but generally to do what? What do most of these super PACs do with their money?
Bash.
They bash the other guy's negative ad campaigns, right? They bash the other guy. You know, I mean, there must be, if they're saying it, there must be some what to it. There must be some truth to it. You know, maybe he is a Muslim. Maybe he really wasn't born in the United States. I mean, why would they say it? If it wasn't true. You know, maybe he is a flip-flopper. Okay. Maybe he's a little too French. John Kerry. A little too elite. A little too out of touch with America. All right? Okay, so let's look at this liberty of contract. This is all good stuff. Right? It's all relevant to today. We're still trying to figure out how to deal with these issues. Right? We're still trying to work on these issues. You know, what is fair? What is just? What is democratic? Right? Whose freedoms are we talking about? The rights of workers, the rights of employers. Right? So the Supreme Court thinks about things in terms of a liberty of contract, right? So what they're saying is that, remember, at one time you owned your labor, now you've entered into a contract with me, the employer, right? That contract, that labor contract, that private labor contract is valid. Individuals have signed on and agreed to the conditions of labor, right? So as a result, you, the worker, you have free choice. You entered into that freely. That is your freedom, your liberty to negotiate the contract any way you want. You have that individual freedom in America. We provide that opportunity for you, right? So the contracts are negotiated and the contracts are valid.
What about like the loopholes?
We're not there yet. All right, hold on. Okay? So with government and unions have no legal right to interfere with working conditions. Governments and unions have no legal right to bring about wages and hours, and workers don't have a right to complain about the loss of freedom when you go to work for a corporation. You know what you're getting into. When you decide to go to work for U.S. Steel, you know what you're getting into. When you decide to go to work for, Standard Oil, you know what you're getting into. If you decide to go to work for, a meat packing, factory in Chicago, you know what you're getting into. If you want to go to work for McCormick Harvester, right, you know what you're getting into. Pennsylvania Railroad, you know what you're getting into. Right? You know about industrial accidents. You know that 35,000 people on average a year are getting killed in industrial accidents, and another 300,000 to 400,000 people are getting injured permanently on the job. I mean, you know that. So you are making a choice to work wherever you're deciding to work. Right? And you enter an agreement, and that contract is valid. So, if New York State has laws, right, on minimum wage and maximum hours, right, and working conditions like they did, right, it's found on page, actually it's the next page, on page 624, right, in 1905, a case became almost notorious as Dred Scott and gave the name Lochner, L-O-C-H-N-E-R-I-S-M, right, to an entire body of liberty contract decisions. The Supreme Court in Lochner, L-O-C-H-N-E-R versus New York, voided state law establishing 10 hours per day or 60 per week as the maximum hours for bakers. The law, wrote Associate Justice Rufus Peckham for the 5-4 majority, interfered with the right of a contract between employer and employee and therefore infringed upon individual freedom. By this time, the court was invoking liberty in ways that could easily seem absurd. In one case, it overturned a violation of personal liberty, a Kansas law prohibiting yellow dog contracts, which made non-union membership in a union a condition of employment. In another, it struck down state laws requiring payment of coal miners in money rather than in script or in paper, right? Unusable only at company-owned stores. Workers observed mine union leader John P. Mitchell could not but feel that they are being guaranteed the liberties that they do not want and denied the liberty that is of real value to them. So everything just gets turned upside down, right? What do workers want?
Higher wages.
Shorter hours, better working condition, workers' comp, and union recognition. Right? They want benefits too. What does this cut into?
Company profit.
Cuts into company profit. Cuts into profit. Now, National Football Players Labor Association, right, was able to cut a deal with owners about profit. Right? So there's almost a guarantee of a certain amount of profit, or revenue, I should say, in football. Right? There's not necessarily profit, there's a guarantee in revenue. And so what were they able to negotiate? Because they had leverage. Same thing in the National Basketball Players Association. If there's a certain amount of revenue generated by the industry, the basketball industry, the football industry, the pro basketball, pro football industry. If there's a certain amount of revenue generated each year, what did the owners and labor, the players, right, agree to?
51.
Like a certain.
Well, a certain percentage, right?
Yeah.
Right, and that's what they negotiated. A certain percentage would go to the players, and a certain percentage would go to the owners. 51-49, 50-50, whatever it may be, right? And so that was because the workers are the product, basically, right? They had leverage. Now, it's really hard for individual workers or unions then to negotiate, a certain percentage of the revenue going to the workers and a certain percentage of the revenue going to the owners, right? Owners are going to balk at that because that is what? A form of socialism. Right, this sort of revenue sharing thing. All right. So what can you do? What's going on out there, right? Well, you have something called the social gospel. It's an important piece of information. It was in last night's reading. Okay? And it's led by a guy by the name of Walter. He's a Protestant preacher, right? Rausch, R-A-U-S-C-H-E-N, Bush. Rauschenbusch, B-U-S-C-H. Rauschenbusch. Okay? And he came up with something called the social gospel. Right? So here you are. Right? You're a Protestant, you're a Christian. You believe in Jesus' message, right? You believe in Christian brotherhood. You live in New York City. What is your responsibility as a student of Jesus' teaching? Let's put it that way, right? What is your responsibility if you see this huge disparity between the haves and the have-nots, right? Mansions, Bergdorf Goodman, the Vanderbilts, and slums, right? People living in incredibly poor housing, right? Overcrowding, poor sanitation, right? Poor ventilation, all kinds of dangers in them, right? Poor working conditions, not earning enough money to feed your family, right? Children working, should we restrict that? Women working 60, 80 hours a week, should we restrict that so they can come home and take care of their families? What's the Christian thing to do? Get rid of it. Okay? So now, right, there's going to be pushback from the church. Some elements of the Protestant church, and then obviously the Catholic Church is going to push back on this. And they're going to call for reform. And they still do today. Right? So if the issue is gay marriage, there are Protestant denominations out there that are allowing for what? And recognizing what?
Gay marriage.
Gay marriage, and allowing gay